Guys, can you hear me all of you? Okay, let's do remaining question of essay 520, and then in the end of the session, then 520, after we are done with all the question, I will summarize the whole essay 520 for you, right? Let me share my screen and
Recording in progress. Recording in progress.
did we do this question yesterday, guys? How analytical procedure help you at the planning phase of audit? It will help you identify the area of potential risk. It will help you understand the entity. Pooja?
Yes, ma'am. We did.
We did know?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
This is a question from your books. Routine checks cannot be dependent upon to disclose all the mistakes or manipulation that may exist in accounts. Certain other procedures also have to be applied, like trend analysis and ratio analysis. Analyze and explain stating the clearly meaning of analytical procedure. What they are saying is they are just trying to give you the importance that why analytical procedures are important, because any routine check that you do on the basis of invoices is not going to help you analyze any unusual or unusual circumstances or the events or some unusual mistake fluctuations. So for that only you will have to use things like trend analysis and the ratio analysis, right? So you have to explain this also by stating the meaning of analytical procedures. So first you affirm as to what they are saying, that yes, we agree that routine checks can not be depended upon to disclose all the mistakes or manipulation that may exist in our account. Why? Because it is a routine check. It only checks whether the amount is classified properly, whether it is authorized, whether the date is proper, whether the rate is proper. That is the reason, right? Due to which certain other procedures also have to be applied, like trend and ratio analysis, in addition to reasonability test. And all these tests are collectively called as overall test. Okay, so can you at least guess from essay 520, from which part of essay 520 are we handling this question from the entire standard? Which topic is exactly being asked over here?
Meaning of analytical procedure.
Before the meaning of analytical procedure, I CA has given you the emphasis of how analytical procedure has come into the life of auditors and why chartered accountants in practice started to use the analytical procedure, because they were facing a problem that the routine checks cannot be depend solely on the, like, for the routine check, for finding the mistakes and manipulation we cannot solely depend on the routine checks, and that is why it is just the beginning of analytical procedure. There they emphasize on why you should perform overall test including the analytical procedures, right? Hence, with the passage of time, analytical procedures have acquired a lot of significance as substantive audit procedures. Essay 520 discusses on application of analytical procedures during an audit. So this is just a preface of it. Like, we are just setting the context that why analytical procedures are important. And now we will explain what is analytical procedure. Analytical procedure means evaluation of financial information through analysis of relationship among both financial and non-financial data. It also encompasses such investigation as is necessary of identified fluctuations. So what do you do when you apply the analytical procedure? Where you try to find whether there is any fluctuations or whether there is any inconsistency, and then you try to figure out, okay, what is the matter? So you have to investigate. Where investigating that fluctuation, you call the TCWJ and management and you ask them a query that why there is a difference. So you inquire, and when you are not, so when you inquire about these fluctuations in SA 520, management will give you some reason. Now you have to analyze whether that reason is genuine or not, whether it is reasonable or not. But if you are not happy with the management's reason and response, then you perform other audit procedures. So that is how you should completely use the analytical procedure along with the other audit procedures. Are we clear, guys? Come to this question. The decision about which audit procedure to perform, including whether to use substantive audit analytical procedure, is based on auditor judgment explained. That means there is a question in your books which talks about when exactly you think about using the analytical procedure as your audit procedure and what judgment you apply over there. Did you get this question? Use of analytical procedure. Essay 520, analytical procedures. The substantive procedures at the assertion level may be test of details and substantive analytical procedures or combination of both. This is, you are setting the preface. You are telling the audit ICA that we know that as part of substantive procedure we can do test of details, or we can do analytical procedure, or we can do the combination of both. But the decision about which audit procedure to perform, including whether to use substantive analytical procedures, is based on the auditor's judgment about the expected effectiveness and efficiency of the available procedures to reduce audit risk at the assertion level. As an auditor, why we decide to go for analytical procedure? We want to use substantive analytical procedure at a assertion level. What is the goal? Our judgment says that we want to efficiently and effectively use the available procedure so that we can reduce our overall audit risk at the assertion level, right? The third point and the conclusive point will be over here, that the auditor may inquire the management as to the availability and reliability of information needed to apply substantive analytical procedure. Please logically understand, whenever you are choosing to apply analytical procedure, just because you decided that you will use analytical procedure doesn't going to make your life easy, unless and until you call up the management and ask them, management, I want to apply the substantive analytical procedure for my for many assertion level. So can you tell me, will you be able to provide at least this data to me? Because what if the data is not available with the management? What if the data cannot be extracted from their ERP system? So you choosing to do analytical procedure will not help, right? You need to have the data. So please inquire with the management as to the availability and reliability of the information. Varna, this will happen with you in the real life. You will just go to their office, you will ask for the data, and they are like, no, 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 we have lost the data. We could not have our data could not retain so much of data. Like, our ERP system could not retain so much of information. We won't be able to provide the last 5-year data. Then you are the gone. Now you can't use the analytical procedure. Then you will have to rely on the other procedures, right? Last, it may be effective to use analytical procedures it may be effective to use the analytical data prepared by management, provided auditor is satisfied that data is properly prepared.
Ma'am, shouldn't we write about the suitability of substantive analytical procedure?
Not because the question here is whether to use the substantive analytical procedure or not. Like you have yet not decided that whether to use or not. So whether to use that as a substantive analytical procedure, you need to first tell that why it is important as part of your overall audit procedure that you want to use that. And second, whenever you want to use that, you have to make sure that it is going to reduce your overall audit risk. You can ask the management about the availability of data. Once you know that availability of the data is there, you can make sure that data, if you're going to use the data prepared by the management, make sure that you are satisfied with the data. Shall we go to the next question, guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, there is a topic in your book which is called as factors to be considered by auditor for substantive audit procedure. Do you have this topic, guys? Substantive analytical procedure under which?
Yes, ma'am.
So please understand, this is one single topic called as substantive analytical procedure, under which first your decision topic is there where you write these 3-4 points, right? Once, then you go under the layer of this topic where they ask you a question on factors to be considered by auditor for substantive audit procedure. So it's the same topic. Under the same topic, you have a factors related question. Are you clear? The question, this both the topic 102 and 103 are connected. Here they are only asking account type, profit, predictability and nature of assertion. But we need to know all the, how many factors are there, guys? Total of 7 factors. Did you all get it? So please understand that 102 is the context of 103. Now, if they ask you these factors, we will write, because they have only asked the 7 of them are here, but we will, 3 of them are here, but we will write all 7. First, what is the first one? Can you tell me?
Availability of data.
Availability of data. Second,
Disaggregation.
disaggregation. Third,
Account type.
then
Source.
source,
Predictability. Nature of assertion.
nature of assertion.
Inherent risk. What can go wrong?
Done. So they may ask any of these two. So whenever you consider that you want to apply the analytical procedure, first consider whether the data is reliable. Sorry, data is available, and not just the data is available, availability of reliable and relevant data will facilitate effective procedures. So if you want to use analytical procedure, please make sure the data is both reliable and relevant, right? Second, disaggregation. That means you should be able to disaggregate the data at different function level, management level. Please understand this, because if I ask you a single question that, can you tell me what is the average salary of employee in Reliance Industries? So you will take the total number of employees, you will take the total salary cost, you will divide both, and you will give me a figure. But does that data means any sense to you or anyone? Because the salary of the Mukesh Ambani and salary of the people who are in the account department is going to be substantially different. So what analysis are you going to make out of it? Nothing. So you will have to divide that salary into subgroups of the business, different function, different grades, and then you also have to take the total numbers accordingly. And then you make this division and calculate the average salary per function per grade wise. That will make some sense to the people who are reading that information. Are we clear? So please make sure that you are able to disaggregate the data. Degree of disaggregation in available data can directly affect the degree of its usefulness in detecting misstatement. Account type. Now, certain elements of financial statements are actually predictable over time, but not all. Right? For example, income statement. Income statement, if you look at my sales of last 5 years, on the basis of that, you will be able to at least think how my sales is going to grow in future in coming years. But when it comes to certain balance sheet areas, it is not very easily. For example, when it comes to the investment share capital, how are you going to do any analytical procedure on share capital? Right? So you will say analytical procedure is useful for certain account type than others. Example, income statement items reflect transactions over a period, whereas balance sheet items reflect net position at a point in time. Then comes the source. How do you define source? You will say routine transactions are more predictable because they contain numerous, similar transaction. As compared to non-routine transaction. Then comes the predictability. Analytical procedures are more appropriate for an account balance or transaction if data are predictable over time. Then comes the nature of assertion. Can you tell me, is it possible for you to establish a right, my right to my assets based on your analytical procedure? Do I have the right or the ownership on that asset? Do I have the right to realize a particular asset? Can you establish based on the analytical procedure? No. For that, you will have to go through the invoice of my assets, whether I have my name written on that asset. That will show the ownership, right? But when it comes to checking the completeness of all my assets, accuracy of all the assets that I have recorded, you can apply analytical procedure. So for certain assertion, guys, do you all understand the meaning of assertions now? You will have to study that again in the chapter 5, right? So SAP may be more effective in providing evidence for some assertions, example, completeness, valuation, than others such as rights or obligation.
Ma'am, can you explain the source once again?
Which one? Nature of assertion or the source? Pooja, your voice. Pooja, can you hear me? Now, okay, let her come in a while. Meanwhile, we complete the last one, inherent risk. Now, in order to determine what can go wrong, like you are trying to identify the fluctuations, right, using the analytical procedure, the problem here is how can you apply the analytical procedures on the inherent risk? Right? Because inherent risk, the management doesn't even know how to handle the inherent risk. The controls can't be put over there. So designing the analytical procedure for inherent risk will be difficult, right? So while designing the audit procedure to assess risk of material misstatement, auditor shall determine if a substantive analytical procedure can be used to obtain audit evidence. Pooja, are you here? Now, shall we go to the next question? It's a very specific question with that asks whether it is possible to independently verify the correctness of some of the items of expenses included in the statement of P&L. We are talking about in the P&L statement, whatever the income and the expense item and the profitability is there, can you independently obtain evidence about them by applying the analytical procedure? I'll give you a simple example. Now, certain sales target were given to salespeople. Some X amount of gross sales target were given to Y number of people to be achieved during the year. Accordingly, if they achieve this target, 100% of the target, 20% of basic salary of all these employees will be given to them as an incentive. Right? Now the entity has actually calculated, now the entity has actually given them the target. These people have actually achieved this sales target. Now company has given them the bonus of suppose 2.5 CR. The total bonus in the P&L statement, it looked like 2.5 crores. Can you verify if this 2.5 crores amount is correct or not independently? Just by looking at the P&L items? You can. I'll tell you what you do. You take the basic salary of all these employees, multiply that with 20%, and check if you can reach this amount or not. You just took one number because the criteria was very simple. If you achieve 100% of the sales target, basic salary of you will be given as 20%. If you see this amount doesn't matches, then what was the reason? Then you can identify. Make sense? That is the meaning of this question. Let's write that. Analytical procedure has lot of questions. Like every line can be made in the form of a question, and I am making you do all the questions that I say have asked so far, right? As per essay 520, and some of them are very case based, right? You will not get the exact reference of this in the analytical procedure, but it is related to analytical procedure only. As per essay 520, analytical procedures, often it is possible to independently verify the correctness of some of its items of expenses included in. They are only talking about item of expenses. So we are only talking about items of expenses included in profit or loss statement. Such as the amount of any income or expense which has a direct relationship with the amount of profits or sales can be verified independently. Example, commission paid to a manager calculated on the basis of net profit or commission paid to selling agent is a percentage of sales such calculation is also known as analytical review. Thus, it is important to note that analytical procedures may help identify the existence of unusual events or transactions.
Ma'am, can you explain this once? I just joined. There was a network issue.
Okay. This question was very simple. Like they were asking in this question, this is coming from 520 only, but it's a very specific case they have asked in December 21 that can you just look at an item of a P&L statement and independently verify that item without looking into any other document or without doing any test of detail? So the answer is yes. For example, I gave an example in the class. For example, the company has given a X amount of sales target to all their sales employees, right? Now, they have told if you achieve this 100% of the sales target, whatever may be your basic salary, we will give that 20% of that basic salary as your bonus or incentive, right? Now, this is the target they have given. Now, in the year end, when you go for the audit, you saw there was a bonus paid of 2.5 crores. Now, it is a single line item in the P&L as bonus. Now, how do you analyze this? So what you do, you take the basic salary of all the employees, you multiply it by 20% and see if the amount comes to 2.5 crores. If it doesn't, then means it is a fluctuation. And then you will ask the client why this is not matching with your incentive policy. So that is what they are giving, that we are asserting that yes, we know that some of the items of expenses in the P&L statement can be verified independently. Right? And then I have also given few more examples in the question itself.
Yes, ma'am, done.
Now, question number 105, discuss The matters relevant to auditor's evaluation of whether the expectation can be developed sufficiently precisely to identify a misstatement that, when aggregated with other misstatement, may cause the financial statement to be materially misstated. Can you please find out where exactly do you see this wordings in your book? Evaluate whether the expectation can be developed sufficiently precisely under what topic?
Evaluation of whether the expectation is sufficiently precise.
Sorry?
It's 4.113. Evaluation of whether the expectation is sufficiently precise.
नहीं. So this question is part of another question. So there is just look at the topic above that where you can actually see from where this question comes from. So when you determine to use the substantive analytical procedure, there are four things you have to consider over there. And all these four things have their individual questions. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Yes. See, there is a topic in your book which is called as analytical procedure as substantive test, under which there are 4 points. First, you determine. So the question here says, when designing and performing substantive analytical procedure, either alone or in combination with test of details, a substantive procedure in accordance with SA 330, the auditor shall determine the suitability of particular analytical procedure, evaluate the reliability of the data, then develop the expectation of the recorded amount, which exactly is our question. That is whether the expectation is sufficiently precise. And then there is a last topic, whether the amount of any difference of the recorded amount is expected to be acceptable without any further investigation.
Ma'am, this is what we discussed yesterday, right?
We discussed as part of which question? The question,
One second.
I think we did that question, but just check my notes.
I think we just discussed this one.
The second last question, I think they explain the aspects to be covered by the auditor when designing. I think we did this question, like the second last question yesterday mainly. Wait. So what I'm trying to highlight to you is these are two different questions. One, this is a main question, right? Under which you have 4 points. But all these 4 points have their individual question as well. So the question that we are going to deal now is question number 3. So how do you develop an expectation which is sufficiently precise? Are you getting? So please highlight this question in your book as important, that analytical procedure to be used as substantive test, under which you will go through each and every topic. How do you determine the suitability, the reliability of data, the expectation is sufficiently precise, right? Now here comes the question, layered question, which is called as discuss the matters relevant to the auditor's evaluation of whether the expectation is sufficiently precise. As per SA 520 following matters are relevant to the auditor's evaluation of whether the expectation can be developed sufficiently precisely to identify misstatement, right? That may cause the financial statement to be materially misstated. Now, under which we have 3 points. One, the accuracy with which the expected results of substantive analytical procedures can be predicted. Example, auditor may expect greater consistency in comparing GP margin as compared to R&D expenses. And the second point is, for expectation to be sufficiently precise, the degree to which information can be disaggregated. Example, average salary per employee at company level may not be useful as compared to average salary per employee calculated at functional and grade level of employees. Third, it also depends on the availability of information, both financial and non-financial. For example, auditor may consider whether financial info such as budgets or forecast and non-financial such as number of units produced, sold is available.
Ma'am, what is that example you have written for the second point?
The average salary per employee at the company level may not be useful as compared to the average salary per employee calculated at the functional and grade level of employees. Next, Pooja, are you facing internet issue today?
Yes, ma'am. 1 second.
Yeah, please do it. No problem. Now, I want to do a one-shot revision of SA 520 with you guys, but I will do it tomorrow. Whatever questions we did so far, we did a lot of questions, like 10, 15 questions we did from it. But SA 520 is a big topic. For example, you just saw from that suitability question, we only, out of these 4 lines, we only did a question of 1 point, right? But there are other 3 questions important as well. So at least try revising 520 tonight so that I can revise it with all of you tomorrow. So it will always be earlier I thought I'll revise it now, but there are still a lot of topics from which we didn't do a question. So at least if you revise it on your own, it will be good if we revise it again in one last time tomorrow in the morning. What do you say? That will help, right? Okay. What is the another standard that we wanted to do today?
530 and 530 and 580.
530 and 580.